being judged, being, having sort of being in the spotlight, about who you are as a human being, that is awkward. And then it was, 4 years later. 3 or 4 years later.
Wow.
But then I looked at him, I just said, oh, there you are. It's like he'd always been there. It's like he fit in the crook of my arm. He looked me in the eyes, and he was wise. My child was wise.
Sandra Bullock may look like Hollywood's eternal sweetheart, warm, funny, and effortlessly likable. But even the nicest stars collect a few enemies along the way. Behind the glowing smile lies a history of quiet tension, private feuds, and clashes with co-stars who pushed her limits. One of the most surprising is a long-standing rift with Angelina Jolie, one that had nothing to do with Brad Pitt, but with a buried Hollywood backstory almost no one talks about. Today we're diving into 6 actors Sandra Bullock allegedly couldn't stand. And trust me, number 3 might completely change how you see her. Number 1, Angelina Jolie. Okay, let me tell you the real story behind the Sandra Bullock versus Angelina Jolie feud, because it's not about Brad Pitt like the tabloids always claim. The real tension started with one movie, Gravity. Angelina wanted that role badly. People in her circle said she saw it as her chance to reinvent herself. Serious actress, box office queen, awards contender. But then the part went to Sandra, and Jolie was not happy. To her team, it felt like something she'd been circling had been snatched away. Sandra never dragged her directly, but in 2014 she dropped a line that many saw as a jab. I fought for Gravity. It wasn't handed to me. She means I earned this. Of course, not everyone can say that, and the tension just kept simmering. When Oscar buzz later swirled around Angelina's By the Sea and First They Killed My Father, whispers started that Sandra, who's close to Brad Pitt and even Jennifer Aniston, wasn't exactly rooting for her. One insider even said, Sandra's loyalty isn't with Angelina, it's with Brad and Jen. Then Sandra and Brad suddenly became Hollywood besties, working together on The Lost City and Bullet Train. Sandra publicly called him one of her most generous co-stars. But Angelina, she kept quiet. But sources say she felt iced out. When asked about Sandra in 2017, Angelina gave the coldest answer imaginable. I wish her the best, truly, but we're very different people. You know that tone, the I'm being polite, but I don't associate with her tone. Today they keep their distance. No public blows, no messy headlines, but definitely no friendship. And honestly, the ghost of Gravity is still in the room. For Sandra, it was the wind that changed everything. For Angelina, it's the one role that slipped away. And in Hollywood, those wounds don't really heal. They just go quiet. Number 2, Meryl Streep. Sandra Bullock has always treated Hollywood like a battlefield full of pressure, politics, and competitors lurking around every corner. But no rivalry ever fascinated the industry quite like her bizarre, half-playful, half-cutthroat dance with the one woman no one dares cross, Meryl Streep. Their feud began during the 2009 to 2010 awards season, when Bullock's The Blind Side put her directly up against Streep, the undisputed queen of the Oscars. Suddenly, America's sweetheart found herself head-to-head with the most decorated actress alive. And instead of backing down, Sandra went straight for mischief. She even left Meryl a voicemail. Watch your back. I'm going to cut you. I'm going to take you down. Streep responded by sending her dead orchids and telling her to die. Sandra fired back with a case of liquor. It was outrageous, theatrical, and absolutely Hollywood. Insiders called it the friendliest feud Meryl ever had, but there was real competitiveness underneath the jokes. Bullock later joked, "People don't realize there's a side of Meryl that's mean. I know not to turn my back on her." Streep didn't deny it. Her silent, sly participation only fueled the legend. What outsiders saw as tension was really two powerful actresses testing each other's sharpness like rivals who secretly respect the other's swing. By the time the 2014 awards season rolled around, Bullock for Gravity, Streep for August Osage County, Sandra was still playing up the rivalry. If the fight were physical, she joked, I'd try to kick her ass, but she'd kill me. It was part honesty, part performance, and entirely perfect for two women who knew exactly how to turn competition into comedy. Today, the feud has faded into affectionate stories, dead orchids, prank threats, and all. But the reason everyone still talks about it is simple. It revealed a rare truth about Hollywood. Even titans like Streep and Bullock feel the pressure. Even icons need rivals to push them. Number 3, Julia Roberts. Sandra Bullock and Julia Roberts. Two women who defined an era, two queens of romantic comedies, both crowned America's sweetheart. And yet they never worked together, never crossed paths, never even shared a public moment. That silence alone convinced Hollywood there had to be a feud. The rumors started in the 90s when Sandra blew up after Speed, and the press immediately labeled her the next Julia Roberts. Julia later admitted on Oprah that the comparison annoyed her. Someone even wrote she was the next Julia Roberts, which I thought was silly. Not hatred, just frustration at being pitted against another actress. Things resurfaced in 2014 when Sandra joked during an awards speech that tabloids claimed she and Julia were fighting over George Clooney. We share custody, and we're both fine with it. The joke landed, but it also showed they were well aware of the gossip. Julia brushed off the rivalry again years later, saying simply, "It's all projection." That was when you knew the feud existed in the public's imagination, not in her life. So where do they stand today? Not enemies, not friends, just two icons who chose different lanes and refused to let Hollywood force a catfight. In the end, the Bullock-Roberts feud wasn't fire at all, just a rumor that lingered because people wanted it to be real. Number 4, Jennifer Aniston. In the 90s Hollywood, Sandra Bullock and Jennifer Aniston were never meant to be friends. Studios loved a good rivalry, and the two actresses fit perfectly into the same mold. America's sweethearts who could headline a rom-com, charm talk show audiences, and dominate the box office. They were constantly compared, constantly competing, and even shared a romantic connection through Tate Donovan, who dated Bullock first and later starred on Friends as Aniston's love interest. The industry didn't have to manufacture tension. It simply let circumstance do the work. Bullock later said it outright, "We were from that time when no one wanted women to be friends." And for years, that unspoken pressure kept them circling each other from a distance. Polite, professional, but never close. Award seasons put them in parallel lanes. Interviews sparked subtle comparisons, and the undertone was always the same. Only one America's sweetheart could reign at a time. Then in 2010, everything changed with one wedding. Both actresses showed up expecting the usual Hollywood small talk, and instead ended up doing shots together like teenagers on spring break. Bullock remembered the moment with a laugh. "We were just like, oh my God, we need to meet and cut loose." And we did. Aniston joked that whatever she sent Bullock to drink was definitely stronger than what she got in return. That chaotic, goofy night cracked the rivalry in half. Suddenly they discovered they had more in common than any studio had ever allowed them to realize. Interior design obsessions, a love for elaborate pranks, a shared belief in numerology, and a deep appreciation for loyalty. Bullock was struck most by Aniston's generosity. Nothing is ever for her alone. She could be hard, but she chooses to be open. The friendship deepened in quieter moments. Bullock described one flight where panic hit her hard, and it was Aniston, calm, steady, almost maternal, who reached across the table, grabbed her arm, and grounded her. "She summoned the strength to comfort me," Sandra said. Their shared fear of flying became an unexpected bonding ritual. Heads down, fingers locked, breathing through the turbulence together. Today, the rumored feud survives only as a relic of old Hollywood, a story manufactured by a system built to pit women against each other. In reality, Bullock and Aniston moved past the competition years ago. What began as hesitation turned into trust, and what once looked like rivalry evolved into one of the most genuine female friendships in the business. Number 5, Ryan Gosling. Sandra Bullock and Ryan Gosling's rumored feud has always been a misunderstanding born from timing, pressure, and the way Hollywood twists a breakup into a headline. What people forget is how young Gosling was when it all began, and how abruptly Bullock had to walk away. It started in 2002 on the set of Murder by Numbers. He was 21, a newcomer trying to survive Hollywood. She was 38, already a superstar. The chemistry between them wasn't just romantic, it was grounding. Gosling later called her one of the greatest girlfriends of all time, while Bullock described him as a calming force in her chaotic life. Like a little Buddha, she said. But their schedules were brutal and the industry was even worse. Gosling admitted, "Show business is the bad guy. It takes all the light so nothing else can grow." Sandra, fighting the ageist pressures of Hollywood while juggling back-to-back films, realized the relationship couldn't survive. The breakup was sudden, yes, but not hostile, just painful timing. Still, tabloids spun the narrative into bitterness, claiming Bullock hated him afterward. In reality, she never said a negative word. Gosling always spoke with warmth. Friends insist the split was sad, but respectful. Two careers moving too fast in opposite directions. And that's the truth. No feud, no betrayal, just a short transformative romance that shaped them both. Gosling went on to build a life with Eva Mendes. Bullock found love with Brian Randall, but the calm, grounding lessons they gave each other, those stayed. Their story wasn't about drama. It was about timing, growth, and a connection that mattered, even if it didn't last. Number 6, George Clooney. Among all the names linked to Sandra Bullock, the one that shocks people most is George Clooney. Not because they clashed instantly, but because a close friendship slowly hardened into irritation in a quiet Hollywood standoff. Clooney's reputation as the charming prankster of every set didn't mix well with the brutal reality of filming Gravity. Bullock was strapped into harnesses for hours, spinning through take after take, and she had zero patience for Clooney's usual antics. She finally snapped, telling him point blank that there was no place for jokes on a film this intense. Behind closed doors, she even called him an overgrown frat boy. And for the first time in his career, Clooney actually stopped. Their tension ran deeper than pranks. It was a clash of philosophies. Clooney liked to loosen a set. Sandra ran hers like a pressure-sealed submarine. One crew member put it perfectly: "He's oil, she's water." And yet, fate forced them back together when Bullock asked Clooney to rework Our Brand is Crisis for her. Clooney agreed instantly, and then joked she'd stolen the role from him, hiding the sting behind a grin. To the public, the feud faded. They still tease each other in interviews, pose together at premieres, and speak kindly when the cameras roll. But insiders say the truth is simpler and colder. Bullock respects Clooney, but she doesn't trust his style. Clooney admires Bullock, but he never forgot being shut down so cleanly. Sandra once summed it up better than anyone: "He's a great friend, but not always a great co-star." Sandra Bullock's Hollywood clashes aren't just gossip. They're glimpses of a woman fiercely protecting her craft and her boundaries. Every feud, big or small, shows how far she'll go to keep her peace. But what do you think? True professionalism or a star pushed to her limit? Let us know in the comments.